All right, peeps, I'm listening to the news and I have to laugh. President Trump tweeted, why are all these people coming here from their shit countries? I freaking love it. I love this man. Oh my God. And you're going to tell me how many, we've all said it, we've all thought it, you say it among your family, your friends, and he just freaking comes right out and says it. I love this man. He is freaking awesome. He is great. And he's right. Why are they all coming here? They're not assimilating into our country. Why are they coming here? Stay in your little shithole countries. Stay there. We don't want you here. What are you bringing to this country? Nothing. Absolutely nothing you bring into this country. I love it. I just have to laugh. I'm sorry, guys. He is the freaking bomb. He is the best. Love this man. Because look, he's saying what we all think, what we all say, and so on and so forth. It's just awesome. It's so refreshing to have a president like this. Just say what you gotta say. What do you gotta lose? Just say what you gotta say. Because let me tell you, more than half of this country is all thinking the exact same thing. Stay where you are. Why? Why come here? You don't assimilate to this country. You're not bringing anything. You're not. It's just. I love him. I freaking love him. And all the Democrats are up in arms. Everybody's going crazy. He said that. Oh, well, then that kind of suck. Truth hurts, doesn't it? All right, peeps. That's all I got right now. Because I love it. I just freaking love it. Peace out, peeps, and talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. So, out in California, near San Diego, a brother by the name of Alfred Olango was shot 4 times by the police and killed. Now, let's go back and see what forced police to shoot this brother, who was an African immigrant from Uganda.
Within the past 40 minutes, we have learned the man who was shot has died.
Police just releasing this photo seconds before the officer fired, saying the man was pointing an object at police and in the shooting stance. We have team coverage tonight. Emily Thote is live at the scene of the shooting.
Team 10 investigator Adam Rakusin is digging into the controversial background of one of the officers believed to be involved.
But we start with 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco with the breaking details from the El Cajon Police Department. Rachel?
You can see we still have a few dozen protesters that are gathered outside the police department. They've been chanting and holding signs, but they have been peaceful. Now take a look. This is the picture just released from the police department. The chief says this shows the man in the seconds before an officer shot him. They say he was holding something in his hands, pointing it at them, standing in what they say appeared to be a shooting stance. Now witnesses say he was holding a vaporizer used to vape. Police say he refused to comply with them. One officer fired a taser. The second officer fired his weapon, striking the man. The chief won't say how many times he was hit. They say that they tried to revive him, but he died from his injuries. Unclear if he died at the scene or at the hospital. Now, this all started around 2 o'clock when a woman believed to be the man's sister called police saying her brother was not acting like himself and was darting in and out of traffic, endangering himself and others. The chief says she also told them that he is mentally ill and not armed. When the first officer arrived, the chief says the man refused to take his hand out of his pockets. That's when the officer called for backup. Now, witnesses in the area say that police confiscated their cell phones, but the chief says they asked anyone if they had video, and a woman came forward, gave them her phone and the code to unlock it. Now, protesters have been gathering the last couple of hours. They've been angry. They were upset that the news conference was held inside the department. The chief says that he understands the community has a lot of questions, but he's asking for patience while they investigate. A local pastor also asking for calm.
In light of some disinformation that was being put out by some of the folks that were out at the scene, that as far as we can tell were not witnesses to the actual event. And it's important that the facts come out right now. We are investigating facts as we know them. And I implore the community to be patient with us.
No matter what you believe happened, no matter what you think happens, that you pray for our city and our county, that what we see happening around the country, innocent people being shot and protesters being shot, we don't want that to happen here. And so I pray that we would be peaceful and that we would let the process take its place and let the truth come out.
You can see the crowd out here is beginning to dwindle. About 12 people just left. So far, the protests have been peaceful. The chief is not releasing the man's name. He says that they're still trying to notify the family. He's now saying that they're not even sure that the woman who initially called them is the man's sister. They're asking for that woman to come forward. Obviously, she's extremely upset. They say she has not been cooperative. The officers are involved or are on administrative leave. The chief says that they're both 20-year veterans. Again, this investigation just getting started, and the chief asking for the community to be patient while they investigate.
So the sister of Alfred Olango called the police because he was having a mental breakdown. And she was very clear that she was calling for help. She wanted him to be hospitalized. And I see a lot of people saying he suffered from mental illness. One of his close friends had just died, and he was having a mental breakdown.
Her cries for justice growing, along with calls for authorities to release eyewitness video of Tuesday's shooting.
10 News anchor Riel Creighton starts our team coverage. She is live with that mother's call for justice. Riel?
And this is the spot, guys, where everything changed for that family on Tuesday. This was an incredibly emotional press conference as several members of Alfred Olango's family, maybe a dozen of them were there, including his young daughter. But the only one who spoke today and the only one that we heard from, and for the very first time, was his mother. Through tears over and over again, Pamela Benge talked about the intense pain of losing her son, how she now sympathizes with all of the other mothers and fathers who've lost their children at the hands of police officers. But the one thing that she wanted to make clear is that her son, she says, was not mentally ill. She says he had lost one of his best friends recently and was having a mental breakdown when he was shot, which she says is not the same thing as having ongoing mental health issues.
Anyone coming. Mental breakdown is not easy to control. It needed someone who was trained, just calm him down, and then take care of the situation. That's all the call was called for, not to come and just finish his life.
It was Olango's sister who called 911. The family is originally from Uganda. Olango's mother says they came here to flee war, asking the question, where do they go now? Now, meantime, it is unclear, though, if the family who has been calling for the release of that full video, if they have seen that video for themselves. But I know I asked the question, and as of yesterday, they had not. We're live in El Cajon tonight. Riel Creighton, 10 News.
All right, thank you, Riel. And at that same news conference, National Action Network President Shane Harris blasted District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis for not releasing the entire video of the shooting.
If you can put a photo out, we want you to release the tape. Where's your nerve and your guts at now? We need you to release the tape because the tape shows the whole picture and not just a part of the picture.
Harris calling on people all across the country to protest their local district attorneys this weekend. He is declaring Saturday National Day of Action and Justice for Alfred Olango.
So his sister calls the police thinking, hey, the police are here to protect and serve, right? And after an hour of waiting, the police finally show up. And within a minute, Officer Richard Gonsalves shoots him 4 times. Even though his sister made it perfectly clear he was unarmed, even though his sister made it perfectly clear she was calling for help, and that he was having a mental breakdown. And of course, the police show up, start yelling at him, saying he doesn't comply, and fire right away. Now, the police said they kept telling him to pull his hands out of his pockets, but they're trying to make it seem like they was negotiating with him for hours. It only took a minute for police to show up and for somebody to end up dead. Now, they made it a point to say he was making a gesture seeming like he was going for a gun or trying to shoot them or something. And that he was quote-unquote taking a shooting stance. One of the cops fired a taser. Officer Richard Gonsalves shot his gun 4 times. But then it turns out it was an electric cigarette that he was pointing at the police. And because Alfred Olango pointed a vape pipe at the police, that justified his murder. The D.A Bonnie Dumanis said once he pulled out that e-cigarette, that completely justifies his murder.
To a developing story, no charges against the El Cajon police officer who shot and killed Alfred Olango. His family says they will fight the district attorney's decision on this. Our attendance reporter Bree Steffen is live in El Cajon, where Alfred Olango's supporters, they're still planning rallies here in the coming days, Bree.
That's right, and a few of them did gather in this parking lot. This is where Alfred Olango took his last breath. This video shows the last seconds of Alfred Olango's life during a confrontation with El Cajon police. Today, District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis said Officer Richard Gonsalves was justified to fire and will not face criminal charges.
Witnesses told investigators that Mr. Olango refused to remove his hand from his pocket when ordered to do so. And they also described Mr. Olango suddenly removing his hand from his pocket, pointing both hands in a manner consistent with taking a shooting stance toward the officer.
But the family of Olango not buying it. They gathered in this church, some wearing shirts calling Gonsalves a sexual predator and murderer.
Even Gonsalves knew exactly that when he left the police station, he was going to confront a black man, and he was ready to go and kill my son.
The Reverend Shane Harris says officers ignored calls from Olango's sister, saying he was acting erratically and asking officers to take him to a mental health facility.
They will not keep killing our babies in the street and our black men in the street and think that they'll get away with it.
Harris says they won't rest until a special prosecutor looks at Olango's case.
War has been declared on humanity, and the battle line has been drawn. We are going to fight.
And Harris says they are going to D.C. at the end of this week to talk more about getting that special prosecutor, and that they are also planning a march for Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Now, when the police get calls like the calls they got in this case, they are supposed to send a special unit. They were already waiting for over an hour for the cops to show up anyway, but the police said that no special units were available at the time of the call. The one unit they have was already on another call. But apparently, if you look at the public records, you can see that the psychiatric response team did become available during the time they were waiting for the police to come. But instead, Officer Richard Gonsalves shows up and murders him within a minute. And of course, they did everything to protect this officer. They show one image from a video that may look threatening to the police, which turns out to be an e-cig. And when asked why didn't they just release the whole video, they said because they didn't want to influence the investigation. They even tried to protect the police officer's identity because, come to find out, he has a history of his own.
We now know the name of one of the officers believed to be involved. Multiple sources tell us that it's Richard Gonsalves, an officer well known to our Team 10 investigators. Adam Rakusin is live in the newsroom. And Adam, this officer has been demoted by the department for activities outside policing in the past.
Yeah, Richard Gonsalves was at one point a sergeant, demoted to an officer. Multiple sources have confirmed to Team 10 that Gonsalves is one of the officers involved. He's no stranger to being in the news. Last year, Team 10 exposed a lawsuit claiming Gonsalves sent a photograph of his penis to a female co-worker's cell phone. The lawsuit also claimed Gonsalves sent crude text messages asking that co-worker and her wife to join him for a threesome. One of them saying, quote, "I'm drunk and want you, both of you." The suit claimed Gonsalves and unnamed employees of El Cajon created and maintained a sexually hostile environment. That after she complained about Gonsalves' advances, the city failed to take all responsible steps necessary to prevent discrimination and harassment from occurring. That co-worker eventually settled the lawsuit and Gonsalves was demoted. But it wasn't over there. That officer who filed the lawsuit filed a second one, claiming she went back to work and the vile conduct continued. When asked about it last month, the spokesman for the department told Team 10 he can't comment on an ongoing investigation. And El Cajon police would not confirm Gonsalves this evening, but they did say that the officers involved have more than 20 years of service.
But despite all of that, this D.A Bonnie Dumanis still justified this murder, still took up for this police officer. which now makes this 5 police shootings justified under her watch. She has never indicted any police officer.
The family of this man that El Cajon police killed in a taco shop parking lot is now preparing to talk about the DA's decision to not file any charges against the officer who pulled the trigger.
And our team coverage begins with 10 News reporter Steve Fiorina. Steve, you were there when the DA made her decision public.
And we learned Alfred Olango had his hand in his pocket, clutching an electronic vape device. Pulled it out, took a shooter stance, aiming at the police officer that we will see on video duck down before opening fire. Gives you a little insight into his perception of a threat. The shooting of Alfred Olango was captured on both surveillance and cell phone video. A man who'd been acting agitated, ducking in and out of traffic. Officers cornered him in a parking lot in late September. They ordered him to surrender. He refused and was shot to death in front of witnesses.
One witness told investigators she thought the object in Mr. Olango's hand was a gun that was based on his motion. She added, quote, "The cop had every right, shoot or be killed."
Zooming in and slowed down, that just-released version of the video gives a chilling look at the shooting. It ignited several days of violent protest and quick release of that video. The DA said there were many pieces to the evidence puzzle, including a personal visit to the scene.
I like to see where it happened, how it happened, position people where everything was, so that when I'm telling you about it, I can fully comprehend what actually happened.
Now, Olango's sister, who witnessed that shooting, says she's very close to filing a lawsuit against the El Cajon Police Department. In all, 5 cases reviewed by the DA today. We'll have details on those on 10news.com.
So this brother, who is an African American, an immigrant from Africa, from Uganda, who, by the way, survived all of that and didn't have any tragic losses until he came to America, he was racially profiled just like the rest of us. People in Africa have been miseducated like people in America have been miseducated. They tell us that Africans hate us, and we believe it. And they're probably over there telling them that Americans hate y'all, and they probably believe it. Meanwhile, they are the root of the problem anywhere you go. Just like when Trump said the shithole country thing. If that's how they feel, why do they fight so hard to take control of Africa? They should be breaking their necks trying to get out of Africa, if it's that bad. He should be telling Hillary Clinton to get out of Haiti if Haiti is that bad. All those people stealing from Haiti should leave immediately. But no, they tell you one thing and they do another. Nothing is new. They may say go back to Africa, but they never want you to. But they would never actually want us to have a working relationship with the people in Africa. We know that Africa is the richest as far as natural resources. Of course they want access to that. And if we had a working relationship, not only amongst ourselves, but globally, it would be a problem for them. It would be hard to keep this system going. And until we do what we got to do and put aside whatever problems that we have with each other to recognize the real cause of all of these problems and face the real enemy, then things like this will continue to happen. You cannot depend on anyone to give you justice. You have to take justice for yourself. There is no other way around it.
This video is of the drive-through window of the taco shop. In the background, you can see shortly a police officer responding. This is actually surveillance video from the drive-through overlooking just prior to the incident. You see the black and white pulling up right behind us there. This is Mr. Olango and Officer Gonsalves. This video was taken from the cell phone of a witness who was in the drive-through window right below the security camera. This is the actual vape inhaler that Mr. Olango pointed at the officers. This is the actual item of evidence pointed towards the camera with the dimensions. And again, I'm working on getting a sample of what this item looks like. Again, this is the item pointed towards you. And the final shot is the actual item of evidence at the scene prior to being seized as evidence.
I call you guys to come help not to kill my brother!
O-L-A-N-G-O. And what's his birthday, hon?
I can't think you killed my brother in front of me.
I don't
I shouldn't have called the police. I should have.
Do you have somebody you can call? Yeah, I think
At one point, the male rapidly drew an object from his front pants pocket, placed both hands together on it, and extended it rapidly towards the officer, taking what appeared to be a shooting stance, putting the object in the officer's face.
You would think that, oh no, they're just acting out. No, that's the frustration, that's the anger, because it's our brothers and sisters that's getting gunned down.
At the end of the day, I really do believe that he shouldn't have been dead, and he should still be alive. Things could have happened differently.
It's that belief that guides Apollo Olango.
A lot of the questions that I was asking, such as, why is my brother dead? Did he have to be? All those questions seem to push towards taking some sort of action.
Leading to the development of a foundation in his brother's honor.
There is a need for an entity within the civil rights movement that provides information and direction.
What questions did you have, and what answers were you receiving that the public hasn't heard?
Why was it justified? What is the legal aspect that allows it to be justified?
Apollo Olango says growing up, his brother, about 6 years his senior, led the way.
He's always been a guide in life. Starting off, we can go way back to the refugee camp and even before then.
The Olangos moved from Uganda to San Diego as refugees in 1991. Apollo says Alfred had a way of making everyone laugh, making losing him to violence all the more painful.
It was difficult. As a family, we had never really dealt with a loss like that. Miraculously, out of everything we had been through, bombs exploding, landmines all over the place.
The goal of the Alfred Olango Foundation, listed on its website, include advocating for police training, focused on de-escalation techniques and preservation of life. Apollo says leading up to his death, his brother was emotionally in pieces over the death of his longtime friend.
Someone that is dealing with a mental breakdown is not going to be able to respond to whatever orders that you're barking out. And with that understanding, there should be some kind of technique applied that de-escalates that particular situation.
In the last year, Olango has shared Alfred's story and the goals of the foundation with community groups, politicians, and Hollywood personalities, with large platforms to raise awareness.
It's not easy. I'm still grieving. It's difficult to go to sleep every night knowing that your brother died in the pain that he died in, that he didn't have to.
Olango also wants to develop research initiatives to study current laws and policies regarding law enforcement, to advocate for reform.
It's the laws that justify the actions. So to have an in-depth understanding of the laws that justify these actions and as to why, if enough people feel about a law as if it's unjust or something is incorrect with it. Every law is a living document nearly, and it can be amended.
Apollo says his brother, who always encouraged him, would be proud of the Alfred Olango Foundation and its efforts to turn his memory into a catalyst for change.
I hope Alfred Olango is remembered as someone that sadly lost his life in a situation that he wasn't supposed to, but in doing so was able to give something to a people.
Well, the protests have been mostly peaceful except for this. They went after a guy at the Trump who was wearing a Trump campaign hat. 10 News reporter Jill Little spoke with the man's family today.
This is the parking lot where Faraz Jabro was playing with a little bit of fire. He wore one of these Make America Great Again hats and marched right into the protests. Now, when you watch this video, you will see and feel like this guy knew exactly what he was getting into. The grin on Faraz Jabro's face didn't last long Wednesday during his Periscope broadcast. No one appreciated his Make America Great Again hat.
I was just hit in the back of the head simply for the hat that I'm wearing. It was that simple.
At this point, word has spread about the guy in the red hat, and the crowd turns its frustrations on him.
Now I'm being assaulted, so I gotta leave.
Jabro spoke to Kogo's Jack Cronin shortly afterwards.
I never made any kind of inciting comments.
He didn't have to make any comments. Right or wrong, his hat was a short fuse. Dozens of people started chasing him.
I was abused. I was kicked.
This guy grabs Jabro's hat and punts it into the crowd.
It was my prized possession. I wore it every single day of this campaign.
The odd thing is, before any of this happened, Jabro asked my co-workers, Emily Thode and Zach Wonderly, if it was a good idea.
Does this look like a good idea to you guys?
No, that's not a good idea.
He didn't listen.
If it wasn't for a few good Samaritans who brought their arms over me and shielded me, I wouldn't have made it out of there.
I spoke to Jabro's sister on the phone. She couldn't figure out why her brother was there. I couldn't track him down to ask. He may be getting the dent